Perpetual motion keeps my mind occupied. Terminal sadness, introvert or socially inept. All of your colors bleeding together. I can't remember the last thing you said. No, I can't remember the last thing you said. Separate my life from the island of yours. A second cycle that can't fill the hole. If it were up to me, we might still have control. But your existence has left with your soul. Yeah, your existence has left with your... Many cycles till fill this hole. The years have taken their toll. If it were up to me, I'd kill this dream, the one where I lose your soul.
Chinchillas are some of the cutest fluff balls ever. They're so cute and spunky that some people love keeping them as pets. But many people don't know the story of how these super soft, adorable rodents came to live in human homes. What is a chinchilla? Where do they come from? And how do you take care of one in captivity? We're delving into the what, where, how of chinchillas. Let's start with what they are. This is a chinchilla. Chinchillas are in the class Mammalia, and they have ever-growing incisors, which means they're a rodent, or in the order Rodentia. This order includes rats, mice, and hamsters, but it also includes beavers, porcupines, and squirrels. Since this is a pretty wide variety of animals, it doesn't really tell us what a chinchilla is. So let's continue classifying the chinchilla. They belong to the family Chinchillidae, which means a small to medium rodent with large ears, a bushy tail, strong back legs, and extremely soft and thick fur. This family consists of chinchillas and their close relative Viscachas. We can further define chinchillas into their genus Chinchilla. There are two species in the chinchilla genus. The shorter, stockier species is often called the short-tailed chinchilla, and it's easy, chinchilla, chinchilla. The second species is the one we're most familiar with, Chinchilla lanigera, and they're often called the long-tailed chinchilla. They're smaller, but they have longer tails and bigger ears. Cheerio's getting a little bit hot, so we're gonna go ahead and put her back. So now that we know what a chinchilla is, let's talk about where they come from. A group of rodents in the parvorder Caviomorpha came to South America and began adapting and evolving into many specialized species. Chinchillas were part of this group, and they are perfectly adapted to the high altitudes of the Andes Mountains. They're crepuscular, quick, and agile. They can easily jump 4 feet high, and their large ears help detect approaching predators. Their large whiskers help them to find and eat scrub plants, grasses, seeds, and sometimes bark. And their digestive tract is well adapted to this diet high in fiber and low in fats and sugars. Their fur keeps them warm despite the frigid temperatures, and it's so thick that it can actually prevent parasites like fleas and mites from taking up residence. Each of their hair follicles can contain up to 80 hairs per follicle. I mean, humans have a lousy 1 hair per follicle, and cats can only get up to 4. Their fur isn't just dense, it's super soft. It's considered the softest fur in the world and is highly sought after for clothing. Which brings us to the human factor in the chinchilla's history. Chinchillas have been hunted for their fur as far back as records of them go, starting with the native people of the Andes, the Chincha. The Chincha people and culture was absorbed by the Incan Empire, but their namesake lives on in the chinchilla, which translates to Little Chincha. Chinchilla fur was among the most rare and expensive fur in the world. It can take up to 300 chinchillas to make one single full-length coat. Fast forward to the late 1800s, chinchillas had had been hunted for centuries, but recent decades of overhunting had led to severely diminished wild population. Because of their unique and valuable fur, several attempts at breeding in captivity began. Through dedication and perseverance, the captive population eventually increased to several hundred. But at the same time, the wild population plummeted. By 1929, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia had all enacted laws to protect the now endangered species. Unfortunately, strict enforcement of the laws weren't seen until the 1980s. Despite decades of protection, the wild chinchilla populations have yet to adequately recover, and both species are currently in a significant decline, and both are critically endangered in the wild. Most of the chinchillas taken from the wild and bred in captivity were of the species Chinchilla lanigera. However, some of them were chinchilla, making our domesticated species a possible hybrid. Although chinchillas were originally bred for their fur production, breeders eventually started breeding them as pets. And that brings us to our current relationship with a domestic chinchilla. And since we've already learned what they are and where they came from, let's talk about the best known practices for how to give them a happy and healthy life in captivity. All captive care of animals should take into consideration the animal's native environment and natural behavior. Chinchillas evolved to survive and thrive in the sparse and rugged environment of the Andes Mountains. While it's not practical or possible to achieve the high altitude or exact habitat, it is important to consider the animal's native environment and natural behaviors. Let's start with their diet. It's easy to want to show your love for a pet by giving them lots of treats, but for chinchillas, treats are the easiest way to harm their delicate digestive system. Remember, they are adapted to sparse, high-altitude vegetation, so a diet high in fiber is crucial for a healthy gut. Fresh, high-quality hay should always be provided, and I recommend Timothy hay. Compacted pellets are important for providing the rest of their needed nutrients. Chinchilla pellets are specifically formulated for chinchillas and usually consist of pressed alfalfa. Other pellets contain lower levels of protein or higher levels of other supplements, so pellets intended for other animals should never be used. If you want to offer your chinchilla a treat, keep it to a minimum, and I mean minimum. One raisin is over their sugar allotment for the entire day. Knowing this, I would not recommend purchasing one of the chinchilla mixes sold in pet stores, which often contain raisins. Chinchillas will often pick out the tastiest pieces and avoid eating any of the healthy pellets altogether. For one chinchilla, I recommend 1 to 2 tablespoons of high-quality chinchilla pellets and a handful of Timothy hay every day. And of course, access to fresh water should be available at all times. Now, let's talk about their habitat. Chinchillas have a sensitive respiratory system, and enclosed spaces can easily cause an infection. Never use an aquarium or solid walled enclosure. Always use an open wire enclosure. The bigger, the better. Chinchillas are active. They love to run and jump from platform to platform. Provide a multi-level enclosure and access to a running wheel. Offer ledges and other places for them to just hang out, and give them plenty of places to hide and toys to chew on. Temperature is also important. Chinchillas can quickly overheat in temperatures of just over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. You can help keep them cool by providing a marble slab where they can lay down and chill out. Chinchillas are social animals. Providing companionship is definitely going to improve their well-being. However, it can prove challenging in captivity because chinchillas are also quite territorial. For the best results, chinchillas who grow up together are going to make the best companions, so consider getting 2 if you're purchasing a chinchilla as a pet. Though I'm a big advocate for adopting a chinchilla from a rescue. If you have an older chinchilla, keep in mind that females are more dominant than males and can often seriously injure new-coming chinchillas. I put a link in the description below for details on introducing older chinchillas. Lastly, let's talk about interaction. They can be pretty picky about how they want to be handled, and most don't like to be restrained or held around their body. Cheerio is one that is opposed to that way of handling, and we both prefer that she has more free range when being handled. I pick her up and then quickly set her on my open hand and let her perch on my arms or shoulders. I never allow her to jump off on her own. If I feel like she's in a precarious position, I gently navigate her back to my open palm. When we're done interacting, she's going to want to clean herself off by rolling in her dust. This is essential for the health of her fur. Since it's so fine and dense, she never wants to get it wet. Instead, she's going to coat it in a fine layer of dust, separating each individual hair. Chinchillas are amazing animals, and they can make a good pet for the right person. They're sensitive in many ways, so care must be taken to attend to all of their special needs. Thanks for watching, and I hope you find the natural history of chinchillas as interesting as I do. If you'd like to go on an adventure with us every week, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Animal Wonders Montana. If you have any questions for me or Cheerio, you can leave them in the comments below. We'll see you next time. Vet visits. Going to the veterinary clinic can be a stressful event. You can make it easier on them by taking them in their crate, so essentially they are surrounded by a bubble of safe. You guys love getting to know the animals on an individual level so much that I want you to meet all of them. But I can't do them all at once, so we'll keep sharing them one video at a time. Today, we're gonna get to know some of our little animal ambassadors that have a knack for making you go, aww. Meet Gizmo and Gadget, the sugar gliders. About a year ago, we introduced you to our new sugar glider, and we asked for your help naming him. There were so many good suggestions, but we ended up going with popular vote, Gadget, and I think that fits with Gizmo pretty good. You might have already met them, but I'd like to share a little bit about their rescue stories and some more of their individual personalities. All right, well, Gadget wants to take a little break in his pouch, so we'll talk about Gizmo. Gizmo was rescued during the initial founding of Animal Wonders back in 2007. We were just planning our move from California, where we were attending zoo school, to settle in Montana. A colleague had a friend who had 2 pet sugar gliders, and she didn't know that they were illegal to own in California. Since she knew we were moving to Montana, she asked if we would adopt them and take them with us. That's how Gizmo and his brother Nemo became some of our very first animal ambassadors. They were about 2 years old when we adopted them, and they were super spunky and active. They loved to climb and jump everywhere. When we first began our public presentations in 2008, they were everybody's favorite because we would call a volunteer up and have them stand and have the sugar gliders climb all over them. It was all fun and games until we told them that they marked their territory with urine. Lucky for them, we had already covered them with a designated pee jacket before we let Gizmo and Nemo loose. Nemo was a big, confident boy, and Gizmo was always a little bit smaller and more submissive. In early 2015, Nemo passed away unexpectedly from a tumor in his liver. This left Gizmo alone, and since sugar gliders are a very social species, and Gizmo had lived his entire life with a companion, we were worried about him. So we put our feelers out for a sugar glider that needed a new home, and a couple months later, we found a potential candidate. Gadget was previously owned as a pet, but his owners didn't want to keep him. We thought he was young enough that there was a good chance Gizmo wouldn't feel that his territory was threatened by his presence. And since Gizmo had always been less dominant with Nemo, we were hoping that he would accept Gadget as a companion instead of competition. That's an angry sugar glider. And that's what I get for waking a nocturnal animal up during the day. Obviously, these guys are really good buddies. Gadget was protecting his territory, and Gizmo is part of his group. So these guys, they're doing great. The introduction was awesome. If you'd like to see the very first time that these two met, we have the introduction on video, and you can watch that right here. Gadget took a lot longer to accept human interaction